As everybody knows, I'm a pretty big advocate for the Eagles. I'm a pretty big Eagles supporter. I got Tennessee in this one. Point blank, period. Derrick Henry had an atrocious game last week. I think that with Philly's rush defense not being as stout as they should be, even with the adding of Lindeval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, and of course Fletcher Cox and Vernon Hargraves and so on and so forth, Tennessee is known for running the ball. You have the best back in the league outside of Nick Chubb, of course, in terms of the most dominant, most forceful back in Derrick Henry. I don't think he has back-to-back weeks of bad performances. Ryan Tannehill had himself a great game last week, just shy of throwing over 300 yards in a game. He was able to carry the load and compete with Joe Burrow. And I think that they have a bad taste in their mouth. I think that the Titans are going to find a way to make Philadelphia struggle. I mean, obviously, Dallas Goedert is out. Philadelphia has been not struggling, but they've been a little inconsistent offensive line protection wise. I mean, Jalen Hurts has had the capability to scramble and extend plays with his feet. I mean, last week I think he had over 140 or 50 yards rushing. It's ridiculous for a quarterback to have numbers like that. Again, I know that we've seen that with Justin Fields and so many other people like Lamar Jackson and so on and so forth, but for the game for the game he had, I think that was just absolutely insane against Green Bay. Not that Green Bay has a crazy defense, but I mean he was gaining like what seemed to be like 20 or 30 yards at a clip in that first half. So I just think Philly has had a couple of close games, not last week, but as of recent. And there have been some instances where A.J. Brown has struggled and they've turned the ball over in the Washington game. And then, of course, at the same time, they also had some turnovers um, against the Colts. I'm looking for Philadelphia to have a hiccup or two. And I think that they are going to make some mistakes that they're not going to be able to bounce back from. And I think Tennessee is going to capitalize. They're going to have to run the ball down Philly's throat, keep the ball away from Jalen Hurts, an MVP candidate, and not let them get into a rhythm. Of course, you're also looking at the injury report. CJ Gardner Johnson is out. He's out indefinitely. So that is one aspect where you can attack the secondary as well for Ryan Tannehill. Devontae Smith and Zach Pascal, two wide receivers, are questionable. It is Thursday night. The official injury report won't be listed until Saturday. So, I mean, they could end up being ruled out. They could end up being ruled active. It really depends. But again, for whatever reason, my stomach is telling me I got to go with Tennessee. I just feel like Derrick Henry's going to have one of those games where he just reminds everybody that he is king, and it's going to unfortunately come at the expense of the Philadelphia Eagles. So I believe they fall at 10-2, and Tennessee is going to end up coming up to 8-4.
I'm going to go the opposite way in this one. I am going to actually pick the Eagles in this one. And Kev, it's not as if I don't understand where you're coming from. There have been some issues from the Philadelphia Eagles offense the last couple weeks. Um, I have to say, like, one of the things that I always kind of paid attention to with the Eagles early on was their second half performances on the offensive side of the ball, because we talked about this a lot. The Eagles would put up somewhere between 17 to 25 points in the first half and essentially just be killing whatever sort of team that they were going up against. It would be a two possession lead. And then they would take their foot off the pedal a little bit. Just the offense wouldn't be as clicking as much. They'd be settling for field goals instead of touchdowns. They'd have to punt the ball away just because of not being able to convert third down conversions. But I think when it comes to this matchup, I'm just not so sure that Tennessee offense is going to be able to do enough against this Eagles defense. Because let's face it, like, the Titans are the best team in the AFC South. Everybody pretty much knows that at this point. But as far as I see it, their offense is solely reliant on one person, and that is Derrick Henry. And if the Eagles are smart, Kev, I would go 7, 8 deep as far as stacking the box. We are not going to let you run the ball, and that would force the Titans to lean on Ryan Tannehill to get that win. And I'm not so convinced of it. And maybe this is one of those games where the Eagles defense, their coaching staff, looks at what they have to deal with, and Derrick Henry's like, we're not going to let him be the main factor for Tennessee to get this possible win at home or on the road in their case. And if they can live with the fact that Ryan Tannehill could execute to possibly get a road win for Tennessee, I think that they could live with that. But I will say that the Eagles have a pretty good blueprint to work with to be able to at least minimize what Derrick Henry can do as far as his effectiveness goes. Because the Bengals last week did a really solid job to be able to contain Derrick Henry in the run game. There was that one play where Ryan Tannehill threw a screen pass to Derrick Henry. He ran it pretty much all the way to the end zone, except he got stripped at like the 5-yard line. And then Tennessee jumped on the ball and ended up scoring a touchdown from it. But outside of that, Derrick Henry was relatively pedestrian in that game. And if I'm the Eagles, granted, their defensive personnel is not of the same character that the Bengals were able to do last week. But still, I think that they could be able to make some plays on the defensive side of the ball to be able to minimize Derrick Henry to, I would say, an average game on the ground. If the Eagles can maintain him to 50 to 75, maybe 100 at the most, that's probably something that they could live with. But if he runs for 150, 175 yards, then you could pretty much, kiss this game goodbye for the Eagles, just because, once Derrick Henry gets running downhill, it's very hard for anybody, any defense to stop as far as I see it. So, that's really the biggest matchup I see when it comes to the Eagles defense going up against the Titans offense. It's Derrick Henry or bust when it comes to the Titans as far as I see it. Now, when it comes to the offense for the Eagles, I have to see a little bit more consistency from Jalen, simply just because, A.J. Brown the last couple of weeks has been hit or miss as far as I've seen it. And it's not because I have him in fantasy. He is on my team, and I do definitely want to see him get some points on the board. But it just seems like the connection there is a little bit off. I'm not saying it's a chemistry issue. I think this mostly just has to do with timing. But if they could be able to fix that timing issue that they've been dealing with the last couple of weeks, I think that A.J. Brown can have a relatively solid game in this game against his former team. And there may be a point of emphasis when it comes to Nick Sirianni and the offensive coaching staff to make it a point of emphasis. Like, no, we got A.J. Brown on our team now. We're going to use him to the fullest extent possible. And we're going to show Tennessee what they gave up. So this could be a game where A.J. Brown could have a relatively good game. Not only that, you got Devontae Smith, who was a stud coming out of Alabama just a couple years ago. He's shown some flashes. I think everybody knows what he's capable of. And I think, when it comes down to it, I want to see a little bit more effectiveness in the run game. Miles Sanders is somebody that you can rely on. If they run that RPO very well, I think that Miles Sanders can have an impact in this game. Overall, I like what they do with their run game. Not only that, they have Kenneth Gainwell in the backfield as well. So they have multiple people that they can utilize out of the backfield. And I think if the Eagles just do a good job of not turning the ball over in this game, execute on third down to extend drives. Granted, this is a tough defense that they're going up against. The Titans are a very stingy defense. They don't give up a lot of points. So, points I think are going to come at a premium here for the Eagles. So the Eagles definitely have to be on their A game here if they're going to get this win. I think they'll be able to do enough in this game. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think it's going to be a one possession game when it's all said and done. But I am going to favor the Eagles here slightly on this one. I'm going to say the Eagles win this one by the score of 23-17. Just because the Titans haven't shown me enough to put up more than 20 to 25 points consistently the entire year. That's despite the fact that you have Derrick Henry in the backfield. And then I think the Eagles just have enough offensive weapons at their disposal to get past this Titans defense. Granted, not going to be easy. They showed that they can maintain a really high-powered offense like the Bengals last week to only 20 points. And going up against Jalen Hurts and this Eagles offense, I think that they could replicate that type of success, but not enough to get them a win in this one. So I'm going to say the Eagles get this win in a one-possession dub for them, and they would essentially move to 11-1 and maintain the number one seed in the NFC. So that's how I see this game playing out.